Hi, good afternoon. My name is Melissa Callison from catamaransight.com. Here we have Carolyn Sherlock from the Boat Galley on her Gemini 105M Barefoot Gal. Hi, Carolyn. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. It's so good to be talking to you today.
It's great to talk to you as well. This is fantastic. I mean, wow, from the Boat Galley itself. We have Carolyn. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and Barefoot Gal.
Well, I love the boat. My I've been sailing since I was like 12 years old. Absolutely love it. And in 2002 was when we bought a cruising boat and moved aboard. We spent 7 years on a Tayana 37, big, heavy monohull in the Sea of Cortez. We were then on land for a while dealing with some medical problems. And then in 2014, we decided to get a boat again and base ourselves out of Florida. So we looked at what was going on in Florida and like where we might be going, most likely the Bahamas. A lot of shallow water. So even remotely thinking of going back to something like the Tayana was just out of it. That's got a 6.5 foot draft, depending on how
Right.
loaded you are. So we wanted something that had a lot less draft. And we happened to go to the Annapolis Boat Show in 2012, and we saw the M and the MC there. And it's really funny, but out of all the brand new boats that were there, those were the only two boats that Dave and I looked at and said we could actually imagine being on and living on. So many of them were so big, and we knew from our previous stint that we liked a smaller boat that was easier to handle.
Okay, so
So
how long is the 105M?
it's 34 feet. It's actually 10.5 meters.
Meter.
That's what the 105 comes from.
There we go.
And it's a really nice length. It's a lot lighter weight. So we've got lighter anchor, we've got a smaller engine, the sails are considerably smaller. I'm 61 now, my husband is 82, almost 83. So having smaller stuff to deal with is a lot easier. I think it's easier for anybody, but particularly um, as we're getting a little bit older.
Yeah, great. So when was she launched and built?
This one was launched in '99. She
Okay.
was one of the very last of the M's, and consequently, we have a few features of the MCs.
Okay.
We've got the asymmetrical laminated center boards that were brought in on the MC. That's the biggest difference. There are some other pretty small differences about like how something was screwed together, but that's so minor, it's not really a big thing, but the
Mhm.
center boards was the big thing that we liked.
No, so what about the center boards makes them so unique?
On most of the M's, the center board was made out of marine grade plywood. And over time, if they're not properly maintained, they can start to delaminate a little bit.
Okay.
Um, and the new ones, they're made out of a laminate, so you don't have that potential problem. I shouldn't say that an M always has the problem with the center boards. They don't. It's all a question of maintenance.
Oh, okay. Great. And so you don't have a problem with maintenance because you've got the laminate center board,
Right,
right?
right. I mean, we've still had to do things like replace the lines that raise and lower them and
Right.
so forth. But yeah, it's one less item on the list.
Right, right. And so without the laminate, what are some maintenance issues with those
Y-
on the
As
regular?
as I understand it from talking to people who have them, is that um, basically when you do your annual haul outs, you just have to constantly be inspecting them for any signs that there is getting to be a little water
Right.
intrusion.
Intrusion,
If
yeah.
so, sort of a repair with West System epoxy, make sure you're keeping paint on and things like that.
Got it. Yeah.
And as long as you're keeping paint on and keeping up on it, hopefully you'll never have to replace them.
Right. Yeah.
Even if you do, yeah, there are people out there who've got the patterns to make them. It can be done.
It can be done.
Anything can, but yeah, I mean,
Anything can be done.
yeah, fiberglass is a pretty forgiving substance.
Right. Right. All right. So what is the best thing about your boat?
Well, the super shallow draft is very, very good. At 2.5 foot draft, we can still motor. If we really want to go in somewhere shallow, like over a sandbar or something like that, we can raise the drive leg and the rudders as well, and we can actually walk it in somewhere only 18 inches.
Oh, wow.
So that's amazing. That's one of the big things that I like about it. The living space is also just fantastic, particularly for a couple. Um, we end up using the two aft cabins as mostly as storage. Although if we do have guests, we can put them in there. But we've got this beautiful big settee and table. I work aboard, so this is basically sort of my office space. Having that nice of a space and having it be bright and airy.
Yeah.
It's not the teak cave that we had on the Tiana. It's really light and bright.
You don't like the teak cave on the in the in
You
the
know,
monohull?
I mean, it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. But it was dark,
Yeah.
and there's trade-offs between the two boats. I mean, this boat is a wonderful, wonderful coastal cruiser. It's lightweight, it's light inside, etc. But the Tiana was an ocean blue water boat.
Right.
That's what we're giving up in getting this boat. And it's just a case of knowing how you want to use it, as far as which boat's going to be the best for you.
Right. How long did you spend in the Bahamas?
We've twice we've gone, both times for right around 4 months.
Okay.
We're hoping to go again this spring. A lot of it just depends on what happens with COVID restrictions, vaccinations, what the restrictions on travel just are in general, and our own health.
Right.
So
Wow.
we're hoping.
Great. So you mentioned that you like the smallness of the boat. So she's easy to shorthand, I imagine, between you and your husband.
Extremely. Yeah, I mean, it's very easy for us to do with the two of us. And I would actually have no problems managing her by myself.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
because in fact, last year when we were coming back from the Bahamas, my husband had, right the day that we were leaving, picked up a really nasty infection. And so he spent most of the time on a 36-hour trip back, basically just sleeping and, waking up long enough to take some medicine. He did pull a couple-hour watch in the middle of the night for me, but I could motor, I could sail, I could do everything I needed by myself. And that's a huge one for
Mhm.
both of us. We always both want to feel that we could single hand.
Right. Right. Which is basically what you're doing double-handed when the other one's down below on off watch.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, that was actually when we had the previous boat, we talked about going across the Pacific, and it was like, basically it's going to be like, you're either sleeping or single handing for 30 days.
Right. Right. Um, so how is she in weather? Heavy weather, light weather? How does she sail?
We've had her in solid 25 knots for several hours at a time. And we were going downwind or very broad reach, and she was excellent. No problems whatsoever. We've had some shorter times where we've actually had a little bit higher winds than that with a squall passing through. Again, she's okay. In those kind of conditions and any good sized waves, I don't think I'd want to be going straight into the waves. Just there's both, it would be a lot of pounding in the boat.
Right.
But also she's
So,
what?
so there's a an issue with the bridge deck slamming and
Yeah, I mean, any catamaran at a certain point, you're going to get to where the waves are higher than the bridge deck is. Even boats that say they have really high clearance, if you get into 6-foot waves, you may no longer have anything above them. So that's one thing. I mean, going straight into it is where we a lot of times, like when we've been in the Bahamas and going straight, wanting to go somewhere that's directly upwind in waves and stuff, We actually, even if we're motoring, we'll sort of, go at an angle and then tack, and it's motoring angles. But just to keep it so that we're not just pounding straight into it. I mean, that's hard on any boat.
Right, right. And so how does she handle sailing
She
into the wind? And
she's not as close-winded as some boats, but if we were not loaded down for cruising, for full-time living aboard, I'm sure that she would sail probably another 10, 15 degrees closer to the wind. But we got her loaded pretty well. I mean, this is our
yeah,
only home.
right.
And consequently, no boat, when you've got them loaded down like that, sails really close to the wind. I mean, we would all love to have one of these big racing boats, a 12-meter or something that can go, 12 degrees to the apparent wind. That would be so nice. But the reality of it is we don't have it. And so either we pick somewhere to go that's, a beam reach or more, or we decide that we're probably going to have to motor sail.
Right. So tell us about the layout down below. You did
Oh,
mention
she's
that.
wonderful.
Okay.
It
Very
has,
light and
it's airy and light, and we have on the starboard side, we have a large cabin forward that's ours that has a full-size queen bed. It's a Pullman, so one side's blocked off. There's reasonably good storage in there. And then we come back, we've got the galley. Again, it's perfectly adequate for two people. It's not monstrous like you'd see on a 55-foot boat or something. But again, it's good, it's workable. There's good storage. Then on the aft, there's another aft cabin. They call it a double, but it's actually, the mattress is 4 inches narrower than a double bed would be. So it's really more like a kid's bed, or if you've got a single guest, that works really well. Almost all the Geminis that I know end up using that as a pantry area. And so that's what we've done too, because particularly if we go to the Bahamas or something, we take enough food for a couple months worth. And so to be able to have enough space for it, that's what we do. There's a similar cabin over on the port side stern. And we use that for more short-term storage. Like it's where the cushions from out in the cockpit will go and things like that. It's got a really nice, sort of a big long counter over on the port side. That's where I have like the printer. Down below it, Dave has all of his tools and so I say they're Dave's tools, we share them. All of that stuff. So there's good storage for that. And then there is in the port bow a head. Now we changed ours to a composting head so that we could go longer between pump out. Well, we don't have to do a pump out.
right.
The small size of the holding tank makes it so that when you're down here, you really need to pump out. If you've got 2 people on board, you need to pump out about every 4 days. So with a composting head, we don't have to worry about that.
Great.
And then where I'm sitting right now is the dining room table, settee, etc. And it's a table that you can easily put 6 at. You can definitely put 8 at. And we've had as many as 10 people in here.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, one was sitting, on the other, not right at the table and things like that. But yeah, you can do it. And there's really good ventilation in the boat. There's 4 big hatches and a number of smaller ones. And that's really important being down here in Florida or in the Bahamas for the summer, is that the MCs have built-in air conditioning. The Ms don't, and we did not retrofit it. But the space is there if anybody wants to put it in.
Okay.
And the other thing that we did, I'm sitting here looking at this and you can't even see what I'm looking at, sorry. The boats come originally with a propane refrigerator, and ours had simply aged out about the time that we bought it. And so we put a 12-volt isotherm in, which, because now solar power is so much better than when these were built, Battery life is so much better. We actually have lithiums now. Um, Using 12 volt, also refrigeration is much, much more efficient than it was back then. It's really a lot better deal. And then we don't have to worry about going to the Bahamas and getting enough propane to keep a refrigerator running. Because when we started out, we did have that propane refrigerator. It was running through a 20-pound tank of propane every 12 days. So that would make it a little bit of a problem if you're going to really do extended cruising in a place where there's not a lot. But
Right.
the isotherm actually fit exactly in the cutout. We had to trim one side by 1/4 inch is all. So anybody who's looking at these, if you're looking at that propane refrigerator and thinking that's not what I want, it is a really, really easy retrofit. An awful lot of boats have done that. So if you're looking on the used market, that's what they usually have now.
Great. So, have you done any other modifications other than the propane refrigeration and the
Well,
head,
so
or
we
and
did
are you
that, and
planning any
we've
future ones?
yeah, well, we did the lithium batteries. What else have we done? Oh, the M's did not come even as an option with a cockpit enclosure. And I made one of our for ourselves, although I didn't go with a canvas shop because it was just frightfully expensive when we don't use it that much down here in
Mhm.
the Keys. We have a couple months that we need it. I was able to get just the clear vinyl tarps that like outdoor restaurants use and just hook it into track and make our own. So that was a really big, nice improvement that we did. Oh, and we've added a water maker too. That also really helps to make us very, very self-sufficient.
Oh, great. And so, how do
This
you
is a
power
big.
the water? How do you power the water maker?
We have, well, when we bought this boat, it had a DC water maker, so it would run
Oh,
off
wow.
the batteries and solar. But it only made like 3 gallons an hour. And it started having more and more problems. I mean, it was aging out. It was from 2000. So after 15 years, the new stuff is much better technology.
Mhm.
We put a Rain Man unit in, and they now make one that can be installed. The original ones were portable. They now make one that can be installed. We put it in, and it runs off a Honda generator, and it makes 30 gallons an hour. So, we run it once every 5, 6 days,
Oh,
fill up the tanks, and then we're good to go. And it was kind of nice when we were in the Bahamas because two boats that we're sharing a lot of anchorages with didn't have a water maker. And so we couldn't fill all their needs, but we could do enough that they didn't have to go into town nearly as often.
oh, wow, that's super nice. Yeah, this
Yeah,
boating community is so nice.
yeah. Another feature that, I mean, I guess it's really not an aftermarket that we did, but that we really like is the dinghy davits that are on these boats. This one came with it. They were pretty standard. I'm not sure if every single boat was made with them. And then we added on the radar pole, we put an outboard crane that's also made by Cato so that we can just pop the motor off for longer trips. We never tow the dinghy and it works really well. And it's so easy to do.
Great. So it sounds like you did the trade in from the Tiana to the Gemini. From the Gemini, would you ever consider trading or swapping out for another boat?
Probably not. For where we are and what we are doing, this is an absolutely wonderful boat. If I was suddenly deciding to cross an ocean, yeah, I probably would. But that's not anywhere on our timeline at this point. Um, we're looking at staying here in the Florida, going over to the Bahamas, at most maybe going and cruising the east coast of Mexico or something. And for all of these places, it's a wonderful boat. It's perfect.
Would you like to tell us about the maneuverability about on
Yeah.
the Gemini?
Yes, this boat is absolutely wonderful. One of the best things that they did on this boat is that, first of all, they used a steerable drive leg on it. Think of like an inboard outboard ski boat or something. It's really good that way. but then they actually tied that in with the rudders. So while there is only one engine, you have as much maneuverability as the big catamarans that have two engines.
Oh, wow.
Our Tayana, as a friend of ours described it, backed like a drunken elephant. I mean, you had no idea where it went. And I absolutely love the fact that with this one, I know exactly where it's going, and I can, coming up to a dock, coming up to a mooring ball, picking out our anchoring spot and stuff. It is all so incredibly easy. That's one of the things that I expected it to be better than what our previous boat was, but I had no idea how much better it would be.
Okay. Well, this has been fantastic talking to you, Carolyn. How do people get a hold of you if they're interested in your endeavor, the boat galley?
Ah, well, the website you can actually just Google on the boat galley. You'll find it, but it's also theboatgalley.com. And if anybody has questions on the Gemini or anything else, if you want to email me, you can put anything in front of it, but generally people put my name, Carolyn, at theboatgalley.com, and it'll get to me.
Great. Well, this has been fantastic. Really appreciate you talking to us today.
Thank you. Well, I think this is a wonderful project that you've got, talking about all these boats and hearing from people who own them, what do they like, and all of that.